The Tarrant County Master Gardener Association has partnered with the Tarrant Regional Water District to encourage water conservation. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean that water to meet drinking standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, and many others, to provide water conservation programs to the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of our growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people living in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you're a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler's checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home, provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There's also an event calendar where you can find information about future classes and workshops. So be sure and check out SaveTarrantWater.com to sign up for their free services.
Greetings! Today we are going to talk about vermicomposting, or the power of worm poop. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you will get excited during this process or during this presentation and want to further your knowledge on vermicomposting. We're going to provide you the basics today, and hopefully you will not be scared to give it a try. So, what exactly is vermicomposting? It's simply a decomposition process using worms to providing a responsible way to dispose of kitchen scraps while creating high nutrient compost for your indoor and outdoor plants. It's that simple. So what are the advantages? It's easy. You're not turning a big heavy pile outdoors. It's fast. Worms break down food much more efficiently. It's productive. You can operate it year-round regardless of the weather. Convenient. Most bins can be easily moved or relocated. And of course, it's beneficial. It keeps valuable waste out of our landfills. So with all of these advantages, I am real excited about creating my own worm bin today, which is what we're going to do in a few minutes. I'm Donna Smith, and this is Deborah, the Worm Whisperer Womack. And we are going to create a bin today. We are both Master Gardeners, class of 2021. So I'm not near as competent with this as Deborah is. So I have some pretty serious questions about this whole process because it's a little scary. I mean, these are living organisms. I got to keep them alive, and I got to know what to do. And I'm probably going to keep this worm bin in my house. Do you think that's probably the best?
In Texas especially, because worms do not like to get cold. Anything below about 50 to about 90 degrees in temperature. And Texas is just too cold and too hot. I keep mine. I have 2 27-gallon tubs that I keep inside.
Oh, okay.
And they're great.
Okay. But
they're better than children.
I mean, yeah. So you don't have like worms in your house? I mean, you don't like...
No.
They don't get out, or...
No, they have lids on them, but I mean, they get restless once in a while, you know, and try to climb up the walls and get on the lid, but there's reasons for it that you can address.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, and also, does it smell? I don't want to have a smell.
Smell that.
Oh. This hardly has any smell at all.
What
so
is
this is the final product?
That is the final product.
Yeah, so it doesn't smell at all.
Now this just come out of the bin, so smell that.
Okay. No. Matter of fact, it kind of smells a little foody, like a little. Yeah, it smells very pleasant.
Well, and not only that, it smells like the earth.
Yeah, not even as bad.
Yeah.
So it smells
True.
better than the earth.
Right, it smells like the earth, and this is where you want it to be. You want it to smell or have no smell or very little smell.
Right.
If it is smelling, you've got a real problem. You've got, you know, rotting, too wet. You've put the wrong things in there.
And we're going to talk about that in a
yep,
minute.
we will. We will talk
but
about
the
that.
other concern I have as far as the smell and them running around my house is, does it attract like flies or gnats or
No.
Bats or anything like
No.
that? Have you had any problem with that?
None. None
Wow.
whatsoever.
Okay.
None whatsoever. The only time that I've had any problem is gathering up my compost, and if I have, stuff to put in my bins, like fruit, and like anybody, you're going to have fruit flies. But as long as you control that, you won't have an issue in here. I've never had fruit flies in my worm bins at all. None.
And how long have you been doing this?
A little over 2 years.
Here?
Here,
But,
in Texas, yeah.
Yeah, in Texas, okay.
Yeah.
But you've done it before that?
I did composting when I lived in
okay.
Florida, but I didn't know about worms other than going out and getting fishing worms in the cow pasture.
So what kind of worms do you use? Can you use fishing worms or just any worms you can get out of your garden?
No, you have to use worms that are made for composting. If you use, they have to be able to be containerized. The ones that we see in our compost bins or in our flower pots are on nightcrawler, and they're a deeper worm. They go deeper into the earth. They can escape, from too wet or too dry or too cold or whatever. These can't. These are a red wiggler, so they're little bitty guys, and they more on the surface, or a few inches underneath the earth. That's why they do not tolerate cold or heat.
Oh, okay.
Because
so
they
red wigglers.
the red wigglers.
Okay, and I guess you can you buy these?
Yeah,
readily,
there's worm farms here in Texas. I got mine from Uncle Jim's out of Pennsylvania, and they ship them to you, and just pretty much you have your bed, your box already set, and then you just kind of put them in there and leave them alone.
Wow.
Leave them alone, and it takes them a little bit, because they've traveled. And
They're tired. They're stressed, probably.
They're very
I know
stressed.
I'm stressed when I travel. So.
Right. Well, they do. They don't like a lot of movement, vibration. They're very, very sensitive to, things because they don't have eyes, so they cannot see, what's going on in their world. And I had a bad experience when my bins got too wet, and I moved everything to one side and drilled holes and put another container, so all that extra fluid, and they went crazy. They absolutely were trying to come out. Yeah, because it upset them. So what I ended up doing was just taking some wet newspaper print and putting over the top. And then I put worms do not like light. They will bury. There's worms in here, but you won't see them. But you will in a little bit.
In a bit, yeah.
And
pull them out of there. Okay.
Yeah, and they go down deep.
Okay.
So if I put the light on them, and
they'll go back.
They'll go back in. They'll calm down. By the next day, they were fine. They were just like, what was going on?
So you mentioned, I take it we're not going to put dirt in here, so there has to be some sort of bedding you mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got all kinds of things that can be used for bedding.
Yeah, how do you set that up? How do you start it?
Well, I shred paper, and I save a lot of my cardboard boxes, and I cut them up to put in the bedding. I also save toilet paper rolls. I save cardboard type. That they won't eat this glossy.
It's glossy. Okay.
Right, they won't eat that. But you can break this apart and moisten it. They'll eat that. Here's some more packing material. A lot of packing material now is coming in brown sheets of paper. Strip it up. Newspaper. I use newspaper. I've got, like I said, cut up cardboard that I use.
So you can just keep all of that. So it's not just kitchen scrap that you're going to get rid of here.
Yeah, because they'll eat all of this.
They'll eat all that.
They'll eat all of this, and this kind of controls the moisture also. So if you get a little too wet, you can add your paper.
Add some of that. Okay.
Yeah,
so
if
you put a little too much vegetable.
Right.
in there,
Yeah,
okay.
and they like that too. And like a lot of times, if I'm going to take a vacation, I will work in some shredded paper into it because I'm not going to be there to feed them. If I'm going to be gone for say 2 weeks or even a month, I was gone a month, and what I did before I left is that I put lots of bedding in there.
Okay.
Because nobody was going to be there to feed them. And everything was fine. In fact, there was nothing left in there. I gotta redo them.
So is this about the size you do?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
Okay, and then
And
you just
it's-
moisten that.
Yeah, it's all moistened up,
Okay.
and yeah. And you
Excellent.
start the bed out with that and shredded paper, some sand. I've got some cocoa coir here. This is potting soil, and we'll throw some of that in there because
Okay.
that way it kind of kickstarts it. And then we've got our
So
worms.
do you feed them right away after you?
You can, but what I did when I set up mine is that I feed them some worm chow.
Worm chow.
Yeah, homemade worm chow.
Okay.
It's
what is this?
It is equal parts of cornmeal, oatmeal, real oatmeal, no instant because that's got stuff in it,
Okay.
sugars and flavorings. This is old-fashioned oatmeal,
Okay.
and whole wheat flour. And I sprinkle that across the top of it, and that kind of gets them started and gets them, acclimated to their new home. And then I give them a little bit of eggshells. I save my eggshells. I bake them, and to kill any salmonella. And then after I get enough to make it worth my time, I have a blender, and I blend them up and put them in here, and I give them just about every time I feed them. I just sprinkle a little bit.
A little bit of that on there. So feeding them. Let's talk about that. What all can food wise can we put in there?
Pretty much anything. Any of your vegetable scraps. Like say you got leftover asparagus, broccoli, lettuce, spinach, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, apples, cores, watermelon. They love watermelon. That's their favorite. It really is.
Is that like universal?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just take.
It's not a regional thing.
You take a watermelon rind and put the flesh part right on top of the thing, and in a couple of days, they'll be all over it. But that cantaloupe rinds, pretty much anything. You have to be a little. You don't want to put any dairy,
Okay.
meat,
Okay.
grease.
So kind of like your outdoor compost bin. You really don't
Yeah,
want to do
yeah,
those things.
pretty
Okay.
much, except for that you're feeding an organism, and so they're maybe a little bit picky. Like in the outdoor compost, you can put your orange peels, and if you had oranges that went bad, you can throw that out there. You can do a little bit of citrus peels, but you don't want to do a lot because it can make the bed become too acidic.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of looking for a pH here too. So
Yeah, you don't have to check the pH because if it smells good, it's going to be
Good.
pretty much a neutral
Alright.
pH
I
to
like
begin
that.
with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Right, but if
I'm
you
kinda
don't
lazy. I
well, I
want to do a lot of work here.
oh yeah, well I am too. I mean, it's not something that I tend to every day. It's not, I mean, I check them probably about every 2-3 weeks. Yeah, and when I feed them, I usually feed them, probably about every 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
just
so
every
it's
2 weeks.
it's not all the time, and you can feed them like it seems like during the winter months they slow down, even though they're in a heat. But we don't keep our house that hot.
Yeah.
But during the summer months,
They're eating more.
they're eating more. At least that's what I've observed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that. I'm scientific. I'm not scientific. Yeah,
Well, that's the beauty of this. Is it really is kind of simple. I mean,
it is extremely simple.
There's a wide range of, or at least what I'm hearing is there's a wide range of ways to do this. It's not like
Yeah.
you have to follow a set, schedule of this is the
No.
day, put exactly this much in on this day, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's not like the outdoor composting where you have so much green and so much brown. This, you start out with some bedding. It gives them something to, get down in.
Yeah.
They're going to crawl down in it. And then they start to eat, because they're going to eat like this cocoa coir. This is shredded coconut hull.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
holds moisture very well.
Yeah.
And they'll eat that and throw a little bit of that, which is from the ground. And it's also got sand in it, plus I have sand. And worms do not have stomachs per se, they have gizzards. So by giving them grit,
It help clean.
well, it helps push it through
Through,
because they don't have teeth. So they're sucking on it. They have like a mucus in their mouth. So they break that food down, and by muscular action, because they're always wiggling, pushes it down. It goes through the gizzard. the grit breaks that down so it can come out and give us a little bit of black gold.
Kind of like fiber.
Well, yeah, if you want, if you want. I mean, we eat a lot of fiber, or we should, so everything works correctly. And same with the worms.
Yeah,
same with worms.
Physiology.
No, we're not going to get into biology.
So I heard you say citrus. Not too much citrus. Is there anything else that is kind of a no-no besides the obvious meat, dairy, greasy, seasoned stuff?
Yeah, they don't care for onions. You can put onion peels in there, but onions are acidic.
Okay.
They don't really like garlic. It gives them indigestion. So, yeah. And I always have to find a little bit of humor with doing the worms. I find them really cool. They're I mean, you know, I grew up beside a cemetery, and I felt the same way about that. They're great neighbors. You know, they don't ever complain. They don't play loud music. Nah, none of that. So they're really cool that way, and I like what they give me back.
Yeah. So that is what I'm really excited about to start my bin, is that I will have this wonderful compost that I can use on my indoor plants. And outdoor plants. And what I understand, it doesn't take very much.
It does not, and it will not burn.
And it won't burn.
Right.
So I just see advantages. So now, what happens? I've got it all done. We've gone several months. I take it, 3-4 months?
Yeah, it can take it. Again, it depends on how big the bin is and how deep it is. Like, say, if you only start out with this much, but you've got this side of the bin, and you start out this much. You don't want to fill it all the way up, but you could get it up to here before you harvest.
Okay.
Yeah, and they don't care.
Gotcha.
You know, as long as they're eating and you provided for them, you know, the proper moisture, which is not hard, and bedding, because they'll eat that. Mm-hmm. That all goes into that. And what a way to recycle.
Yeah, no, I love that.
This is everything that does not go into our landfills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and it feeds the worms. It's good for the worms. It's good for our plants. You can make compost tea out of this, and you can take that and, like, say, a piece of pantyhose or one of those milk bags, and soak it. And if you aerate it, it's better. And that's a whole nother subject, is making compost tea. But you can water your plants with that. You can also, the leche that comes out of here, the fluid, and you will have some fluid that comes out of the bottom drains. You can mix that 10 to 1.
Okay, now we're doing math, Deborah. I don't know
right,
math.
1 part.
Okay.
Right, in other words, like, say you have 1 ounce of leche.
And
you know,
so you need 10 ounces of
10
water.
ounces of water, and you
10.
can water your plants with that.
Gotcha.
You know, and or you can use a foliar spray. Put it in the sprayer, and they eat through their leaves. You know, they get the nutrients through the leaves.
So when it gets up to here and I'm ready to harvest this, so do I just throw them all out in the garden and then just go all this process over again? You
can, if you choose. But the chances are, because we're living here in Texas, is that they will die because of the heat. Right. But what you can do is harvest the castings. And what I mean by harvesting is, like, say, once you have this bin, you're looking at it, you can take a piece of cardboard and pull everything to one end. Put your piece of cardboard in there, have it a little bit off the bottom.
So everything.
So pull it all that way.
One side is completely empty. Okay.
Yeah. And then put all your bedding
on the empty side.
On the empty side. Okay. And then what will happen is that they will travel, because what they're looking for is, I want to eat.
Yeah.
So they're going to go there. It may take 2 or 3 weeks. And then they'll travel over there. So then you start feeding them on that side. And that piece of cardboard that you put in there, eventually they'll eat that too. But then you can take all those castings out. And there'll probably still be some worms here or there. And there's a couple options. You can put a piece of plastic down, heap that up, put a light on it, and they're going to go to the bottom. They're going to go to the bottom, so then you take the top off. Okay. And you can kind of look at them and stuff. And I put mine in because usually mine's pretty wet. This is pretty wet. Yeah. And then I will let it dry. You know, I have another container that I put them in, and then I turn it every couple of days to try to get some of the moisture out. And then you have this.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
So this is fresh, basically dried from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I take it you sift it.
I
We got a
sift.
sifter here.
Right. I do sift mine because within that, because of learning doing all of this, that you can have seeds.
Oh, that
And
they
you
didn't
really
eat.
don't.
You don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, because they won't eat. It's too hard for them to eat. So if you want something that's, you don't have to. You don't have to. I choose to.
Okay.
And then you get a nice fine product.
Yeah.
That way, you know, anything that may have been in the potting soil, like all these little tiny sticks, and you can take that out and throw it in your main compost or throw it back in the bin. It's not going to hurt. Just throw the seeds away. And I didn't realize that they didn't break them down. And I had taken like a spaghetti squash or a
Right.
butternut squash, and I took all of that.
Oh, the insides. Yeah.
Yeah, all, you know, from scraping it out.
So some of this is a little trial and error.
It
Just kind of
is,
seeing
and
what
yeah,
works and what doesn't.
right. And
Trying to keep your.
one day I opened up my bin and I had sprouts. I had sprouts, and it was like, wow, okay, all right, you know. And
Mystery plant.
yeah, I just pull them out, you know, and then the worms will eat the green stuff, so it's no big deal. And you know, it's not like it's going to take over the bin.
Yeah.
And then you just, yeah, like I said, I just throw it in there, and you know, take it, put it in another bucket, and it's ready to go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Preparing for this, I realized there's a ton of information, a bunch of YouTube videos. I mean, there's like a ton of stuff, and so we kind of picked out a couple of Deborah's favorites, and this one is actually in our library here at the Resource Center, and so you could actually come and look at it here at the Master Gardeners site, and it is Worms Eat My Garbage, and this is a really good book. It is very scientific. She does go into a lot of detail, but boy, if you want like everything you want to know.
She was like the pioneer
Yeah.
of getting vermicomposting really on the map. And it's always been there, but people didn't realize the importance of worms, and she really brings that to light. And yeah, that's a great book. This book here, it's a
Everything.
It's got everything. It's got a great chapter on vermicomposting. It's got a lot of good information. And YouTube, there's Rodell. I think you put a link.
I did. I have a couple on
One
the
for the
resource
University
side,
of
yeah.
North Carolina.
And I kind of like this one because when honestly, I read this one and I was, you know, my eyes were kind of like, what? How much math do I have to do? I don't know.
Yeah. She's more technical.
She's very technical. This one is kind of like worm composting for dummies. It's really basic. I mean, super basic. So, you know, this is kind of one, it's just like 1, 2, 3, this is it. So, very, very elementary. And then, speaking of elementary, one of our Master Gardeners brought in a bunch of children's books that talk about worms and how beneficial they are, and I think these are just wonderful. Because my grandchildren love worms. You know, I tell them I have worms in my compost outside. I probably do. I don't know. I've never seen them.
Can I see?
I say, let's go feed the worms, and they get way excited about taking the scraps out there.
Yep.
And then, you know, we have to water the worms, and, you know, so they love it.
Yeah.
They don't think they're icky at all.
I think it's like anything with teaching children, whether it's the earthworms or composting, gardening, of anything, they're life skills, in my opinion. They just are. And
knowing where our food comes from.
Yeah, not at the grocery store.
Exactly.
You know. But yeah, books, you know, and there's tons of information. There's YouTube videos, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. Everybody does something a little bit differently.
That's true.
And they have different ways. And if it doesn't sound right to you, then ignore it. You know, just ignore it, move on. But you'll get a little something from each and every person that you listen to, no matter what it is. It's like, oh, I could try that, or that's a good idea, and do something along those lines. So it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and a lot of these, some people are in business, some of them are just, they're worm farmers just like you and I. They're not specialists. But, like, I think it's the University of North Carolina.
I've got that on the.
Right, they have that, and a lot of the universities, believe it or not, are really into the vermicomposting.
Yeah,
And
that
I
North
mean,
Carolina site was awesome.
Yeah, and they have big commercial venues with vermicomposting. And because it's a way to recycle our garbage instead of it going to the landfill. And they're huge. I never knew that they were that large. Yeah. But they can control it. They can put heat mats down. They can environmentally control everything that's going on to keep those worms alive. Yeah. And in fact, I wouldn't mind seeing a composting program here in Tarrant County.
I was going to tell you, in Dallas, on my resource slide, they actually have a worm farm in Dallas, and it would be a great field trip because they'll let you come and see how they grow the worms.
Yeah.
and you can come and actually buy your worms right there on site.
Right. I think they sell. Do they sell the compost too?
Yes, I think they
compost,
do.
Yeah.
I think they call it worm wine, is what they call their compost tea.
Yeah, compost. Yeah,
it's worm wine. So I think that would be a great field trip for the Master Gardeners.
I do too. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
You know, I think it gives anybody a better understanding what we need to do environmentally.
And that slide is coming up here in just a minute. So I'm going to show you a slide with the place in Dallas and Uncle Jim's and what is it, Texas Worm Ranch? I think it's called.
Yeah, I think it's called
Texas Worm Ranch.
Yeah.
So we'll show you that slide. And actually, too, I just want to say if you're really, really lazy and you live in the city of Fort Worth, you actually can compost your kitchen scraps at different drop-off stations. So you just collect your scraps, you drive over, you dump them in the bin, and that's it. But you do have to be a resident of the city of Fort Worth, and there is a $20, they call it like an initiation fee, but it's free after that. So that's a super easy way to compost your scraps.
Yeah, if you don't want to do it.
And the nice thing about the city one is you can put bones in there. Bones, meat, anything that's cooked.
Anything that's cooked.
Anything
right?
that's cooked.
No raw meat, because
raw meat.
That gets nasty.
But you could put like casserole in there, lasagna, whatever, and take it to the city site.
Oh, see, they can get it hot enough, they can destroy all the
Everything.
pathogens.
Yeah.
About what earthworms are, and in fact, a lot of the history behind, like that, the earth moved. There's Darwin. What was it? What's his quote? In there?
I don't know, Deborah. You're gonna have to help me here.
There it is. The intestines of the soil.
The intestines of the
Soil, right. And even Aristotle realized the importance of worms. And right. Oh. And even going back to Egyptian days, there in Cleopatra, worms were sacred. And in the valley of the Nile, all that soil was very, very rich. So, but if you got caught stealing the worms out of the Nile area or in Egypt and try to take them out of there, the punishment was death.
Oh,
so okay. They're very serious about their worms. So it goes way back.
Pretty quickly, don't they?
Yeah, they're actually asexual, so there is no male and female. They're both, and then they breed and they have little babies. And their lifespan can be anywhere from a year to 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And, but they'll have little cocoons, and they're kind of little golden orbs. And they kind of know, like when their situation is not right,
they won't be reproducing.
They will not reproduce.
Okay.
Yeah, they will not reproduce. And if they, like I said, if they're uncomfortable in their bed, there's a reason. Yeah, it's too wet, too dry, not enough bedding.
Gotcha. Well, let's do this.
All right, yeah.
Are you ladies ready out there?
So you've got your bin.
I've got my bin here, so I've drilled some holes in it because they got to have air. These are living organisms.
Yep, so let's move some of this out of the way here.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to put your lid underneath. So this is your catch lid, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's going to be my top lid. And then I did get this, just a simple plant drain, you know,
To
and
put
I'm gonna put
underneath
that
there.
underneath, and I've got some bricks at home,
Right.
so we're just gonna have to live with it till
Yeah.
I get home. And then
You-
I did get a little piece of screen
Mm-hmm.
to so that my dirt doesn't fall out the bottom.
Right, it kind of
And-
stops the worms from escaping too and
So
going out
yeah.
in the bottom.
Just set that in the bottom there like that. Okay,
All right.
now what's first?
Okay. Now I'll put some cardboard in it.
Okay,
That's kind of
she's just soaking it down. There we go.
soaking it. Just get it wet. Doesn't have to be, you know, sloppy. Just some moisture.
Cardboard, it'll probably soak up a lot of water.
It does. It
Yeah.
does soak up a lot of water. But you don't want it so wet.
That it's pouring out.
Yeah, you want to
Okay.
kind of just squeeze it a bit. Yeah, cardboard's a little harder, but it doesn't take long.
Okay.
And you just
Alright.
scatter it in the bottom.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be great.
Look, you got worms.
Worms. I didn't even have to go to Uncle Jim's.
No.
I went to Aunt Deborah's. and got my worms.
I'll get you started. They'll be happy because I have a brand new bin. New bedding and everything. Let's get some more.
And then, so on the newspaper, I know you don't want to use the shiny part out of the newspaper.
Yeah,
but
you
can
don't
use
use-
the colored part. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can as long as it's not slick.
Okay.
If it's
So,
not-
so the dyes are all right as long as it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
slick.
yeah.
Okay.
But you can just, you know, hold it up and tear up some strips.
All right. Well, that didn't work so well. Let's try
And it
this
doesn't.
side.
They're not picky. They're not gonna. They're not gonna come
They're
at
gonna
you
give
and
me,
say
like, points for
no.
neatness.
Yeah, they don't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
So how's that? Just-
That's all good. Yeah.
Should we wet that too?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. What other fun stuff do we have for these
Well, after
guys?
I pull this, and we'll get some of the shredded paper.
Oh, okay. Oh, out of your shredder? You just
Yeah, I
it?
shred. You know, at the end of the year, it seems like you always have stuff that you just no longer have to have.
Oh, yeah.
And I shred it, so why let it go? The worms love it. And they'll eat it. They like the bedding.
Oh, wow. Okay. So here's just plain old shredded paper.
Yeah, it's cross cut, so it's
Oh, so it's tiny.
yeah.
Okay. I hope you guys have a vacuum cleaner. 'Cause maybe it's a little bit messy when you first start, but then after
Well,
that.
you know, if you start this out, you can do it outside.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
do it outside to start.
Start.
You know, but it vacuums up very easy. The cardboard's easier because it's bigger pieces. And you see, just, you know, kind of get it wet.
So should we wet this too, or just sprinkle it in?
I would sprinkle that in, and then I've got a
The wetness.
spray
Oh.
bottle,
Oh, that's a good idea.
because if
Okay.
it's the long shreds, yeah,
Okay.
you can just put it in there and then moisten it out.
So I'm gonna put some paper.
That doesn't matter.
Okay, my OCD is kicking in here. Okay.
You can see I've got some old shreds in here. Goes back to 92 and
Oh
93.
my. Okay.
I got really busy one day. But like this, this is
Right,
the
so you
packing
just let it-
material. Yeah, you just moisten up, mix it all up. And toilet paper
Oh,
rolls.
that's nice. That's like perfect.
Yeah, toilet paper rolls you can
Kind of
throw.
like it's kind of like when they say, you know, when you're doing your potting your plants,
Yeah,
you want it like a wrung out sponge.
Sponge, yeah. Yeah. That's,
Oh wow, so you can just put these in like that? They'll eat that?
yeah, they'll actually crawl in here.
Really?
Yeah,
So
they
like worm homes?
yeah, they're worm homes. Same with this one. You can just stick that in there, just pile the stuff around it, and then it'll suck up some of the moisture
Wow,
and
okay.
stuff. I save everything. If it can be if it can be recycled, I do it. Recycled, reuse, repurpose.
Okay, so then we need we need some yeah.
Yeah, the paper. Yeah.
Worm.
That's yeah.
So
So
grit now, right?
okay. So we've got those. Yeah, we'll throw some in there too. 'Cause I got a whole bunch of this stuff at home.
Okay.
And that way it'll make your worms feel comfortable.
I want them to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
don't want them running away.
No, don't want runaway worms. So what we
Wow,
have,
this is pretty easy.
yeah.
You're right. Kids could really do this.
Oh, this is fun, teaching children how to do this. This is coco, and it is ground coconut hulls.
Okay.
And
Where do you get this?
I buy it off of Amazon, and it comes in bricks.
Okay. So
And
you rehydrate it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's fun to watch too, because
Oh,
you can
okay.
just throw a brick in there and pour some water. Yeah.
So
It's kinda-
cocoa core.
Coco is it's
Okay.
COCOIR, coco coir.
Okay.
And I use this even in my potting soil,
So
because
is it kind of like
it's like peat,
peat? Okay.
and it will hold moisture very well, and the worms love it for the bedding. And I also use it in my potting soil instead of peat, because peat is unsustainable,
Oh,
you know.
okay.
And then I've got just some potting soil that I took out of, my bags at home. And it's got a little bit of everything,
Should we wet this down a little bit more?
Yeah,
now?
when we get everything in.
Okay.
And where'd my sand go? Oh, there it is.
Yes. Okay.
Now
So
with-
this is just like play sand?
Yeah,
Like, okay.
and you don't have to buy this separately. It's just that I already have it just to show what you can add in
Add to
additional, and this is grit.
Ah,
It's grit.
okay.
And because your potting soil is going to have sand in it automatically, but it doesn't hurt.
But you don't have to.
No.
This is kind of a. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do probably more than what I need to,
Okay.
but I'm most.
So in other words, it doesn't hurt to do it, but if you leave it out, that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah. And then we've got some finished castings. I'm going to put some in here to get her started. And then just kind of, mess it around a little bit in there. Yeah, it's no big deal. No big deal at
So
all.
what would you say is like the minimum to start a bin? Let's say, I mean, like, what would you say is like crucial? Like, you've got to have this. I mean, obviously you've got to have the paper bedding, right?
Right, you have the paper bedding, the cardboard, I mean, everybody's usually getting something from Amazon, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, when I don't have anything better to do at night while I'm watching TV, I cut it up.
All right.
And I just, I just keep it going.
So could you do it with just the cardboard? Could you start it with just
Yeah.
the cardboard and paper?
Yeah.
And no grit or anything?
Well, you should put some in there, at least if you have potting soil,
Yeah.
put a little potting soil in there, because
Would
it
be
does.
enough grit then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. You don't have to have the coco core and all of that. It's just, this is how I did mine.
Gotcha. Okay.
To give
so
them
it
a
can
good
even be simpler than this as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
what you put in. Okay.
Yep. The biggest thing is having the right type of moisture in there. You don't want it dripping wet. You don't want to, it just to flow out of there, because eventually you will have enough
'Cause
liquid
you're
in
gonna
here.
put the,
You're going
when
to
you
be
put the
putting food
vegetables
in here
there,
and
yeah.
vegetables and stuff like that. That's why you have, like with mine, I have 2 bins stacked inside. I have a brick on each end so that it can drain.
Oh, okay. So
You know.
you put a bin in a bin.
I've got a bin in a bin.
Okay.
And you can buy stacking bins. If you want to spend money to do that, I've got $10 a piece in mine. So I have $20 just in bins.
Yeah.
And you'll probably spend $300 or $400 on commercial bins.
Commercial
And you
bins.
don't need to do that.
Right.
You just don't. Not to do. In fact, you can do it with 5-gallon buckets from Home Depot. They're what, $2-3 a piece?
Yeah.
You put a bin in a bin, a bucket in a bucket, drill holes in the very bottom of it, and that way you don't have to worry about it getting so wet.
And the leche will just.
And the leche will go to the bottom, and then on the top of the bucket you can drill holes or not, or you can go around the bucket
Yeah.
with some holes in it,
Holes.
because they got to have some air.
Air. Yeah.
And then you just, and that's the smallest one probably you should go with.
do.
But one this big or one a little bit smaller, you can do it. But I find it's just like keeping everything. I used to keep aquariums. The bigger the better, if you can do it.
Ah.
You know, and because you have a little fish bowl, you got to change that water all the time.
All the time.
You have a 55-gallon tank, you only have to change it every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of think of it that way.
Okay.
You know. But probably could spray a little bit more water in here just to get a little bit moist. Yeah.
So this is probably the best way to add water, is not pour it in there, but
That's
do
the
it like
worst way to
this.
do it,
Yeah,
is pour water in there, because you can get
Okay, did you
to,
hear that? Good safety tip. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't pour water
if you
in.
pour water in there, you can overdo it. But if you sprinkle it,
Fast,
yeah, real quick. But if you just have a mister, and most people do have spray bottles,
Yeah.
and what I do, and I know this may sound a little corny, but like that water there, that probably doesn't have hardly any chlorine in it at all, because
I filter mine too.
I don't really, but if you just take chlorinated
Distilled
water,
or could
no,
you use-
chlorinated water, and leave the lid off of it for
Oh, and let it
24,
dissipate.
and
Okay.
it will gas off by itself.
Gotcha.
I don't know the recipe, but you can also, I used to know it.
We
add,
don't do math in this presentation.
no,
So it's okay.
it's a little bit of vitamin C powder with water.
Really?
Yep, and it will dissolve chlorine in your water.
We don't do chemistry here.
No.
either, so all right. Let's see.
Okay,
Okay,
that
I'm ready to do these
that
worms.
feels
Are we
that
ready to
feels
do the
pretty
worms?
good. Where's the worms?
Okay, here they are. So I want you to show me what these look like now.
Okay. Don't be afraid.
Oh, looky there. Those are beautiful. Wow. And
There
they
isn't-
look hungry, Deborah.
Yep. And the thing about it is, none of this. You see, I'm handling everything with my
yeah.
bare hands.
Yeah.
There is nothing in here that is going to hurt you. Nothing
Probably
at
more
all.
on our hands would hurt them than.
Yeah,
but,
that and
yeah.
I get gunk under my fingernails.
Yeah.
But other than that, but I've got gloves and I forgot to put them on. But you can use plain household gloves, rubber gloves. Go to the dollar store, buy, they're $1.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all, But you kind of just put them in here, let them rest. Dump them out. Oh, look, all of them.
So this is probably what, a pound of worms, maybe?
Probably not even that. I just reached in there and grabbed
Grab
them.
some.
Yeah.
this one.
Well, right where they're feeding.
Yeah.
and you
Boy,
can
these are skinny.
Yeah, some of them are real
Teeny
little.
tiny.
See, these are babies.
Yeah.
These are just little babies. And you see, they're moving. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to get away from the light.
Yeah.
Ah! I don't like the light. You want to spray that down a little bit?
Yeah, I
We'll
can
get
do
them
that.
out of there because
All right. No worms here, so yeah.
you can feed them once a week. It depends on how much you food and how many worms that you have.
Okay.
And like this out of my bin, this is a piece of avocado shell, and they'll eat it. And but they'll leave that sticker behind.
Right. of course.
They will not eat that.
So, okay, so I know I said we weren't going to do math, but so let's say I've got this size bin and somewhere around ½ pound of worms.
Should get, yeah,
How many
probably.
pounds of vegetable scrap should I put in there for this size? Is there a formula for that? I guess we need to go to the book, right? It'll probably
Well,
tell you.
if you have that much, and remember, are you a coffee drinker?
No, but
Do
my
you drink?
dad brings his grounds over for me.
Right. Or do you drink tea? You
Yes,
can feed them
a lot
tea
of
bags.
tea. Oh, tea bags, okay.
Yeah, you can throw them in there. Whatever vegetables and stuff that you have. I mean, there are times where I don't necessarily have vegetables or scraps to go in there. Again, it's because of the bedding, and you can give them.
There you go.
Oh, thanks.
Pipe you off a little bit.
Yeah,
Spray you down.
it's just worm poop. Nothing that'll hurt you. You can't get sick from it or anything. But like I've got this worm chow.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right. So that was the oatmeal, the
Yeah, equal parts of oatmeal,
cornmeal,
and whole wheat flour.
whole wheat flour.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And you just kind of just sprinkle some on there. And that's their first food, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're good with all of that. And probably in a couple of days you will see
I
that.
smell the cornmeal.
Yeah, you can see that probably work away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the eggshells.
So, do they need to be that fine? on the eggshells?
They break down faster.
Faster, okay.
Right. But you can just, again, it's a grit. And it also, as eggshells break down,
That's calcium.
you have
It's
calcium.
good nutrients, yeah.
Yeah.
So you,
And pretty,
Perfect.
yeah, pretty much
that's it?
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And if you find that it's too dry, again,
Just
just use
spray.
your spray bottle, you know,
If
kind of.
it's too wet, add more bedding.
Yeah.
More cardboard,
But you
more
should,
paper.
this should be okay.
Yeah, no, it
You
feels
know,
exactly
It feels
like
good, you know. And then they're probably already disappeared.
They are. They're already
Yeah, they're-
going at it.
Yeah, they're going at it. And they'll be real happy about everything. And then you put the lid on, you're good to go.
Excellent. Well,
Yep.
Deborah, the worm whisperer Womack, thank you very much
Worm.
for setting me up with my worm
You're
bin
welcome.
here. I'm really excited about this, and I'm going to I'll get back with you and let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So
That and this too.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Throw it in there.
Yeah. Give it a little bit of water and they'll eat this too. Paper towels. Yeah, anything that's a paper product.
Yeah.
As long as it's
As long as it's not slick.
slick, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us today for Vermicomposting, and I hope you all will go out and get you a bin and get started.
Yeah.
Which
It's a lot
is
of fun.
making some black gold.
Black gold. Can't get any better than that.
Thank you, Deborah.
You're very welcome. And thank you for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. So, to conclude our presentation today, I've got a little recap slide of just some of the things. If you're completely confused, then we just kind of did a little bullet points here to let you know the basics of what you need to do for your bin. Ventilated, you want it dark, you want to have the bedding, you got to have red wigglers, those are the best. 50 to 80 degrees, not too wet, not too dry. Reduce, no vibration or jostling around, and no direct sun on your bin. Here in Texas, it's really better to do this in an indoor environment because probably you guys know your garage gets too hot. It gets too hot outside, it gets too cold, and it's just going to be a constant moving of your bin. So we both have decided it's really best to do it inside. Then we've got additions as far as what you can put in your bin to feed your worms. Be careful, you don't want to put any seasoned food like pasta or rice. If it's plain, you can put it in there. No meat, cheese, greasy, oily, seasoned cooked foods, or pet waste. Limit the citrus and the onions because they will make it too acidic and burn their little delicate skin. So you want to take care of them. So that's just kind of a recap of what we talked about. And then I've got a little resource slide here that I'm going to leave up for a second. The 2 books we talked about, the websites, that North Carolina State University is an excellent site. They have a great hands-on building a bin, just kind of like Deborah and I did today. The Rodale Institute is good, and of course, if you want to check on that residential food scrap composting with City of Fort Worth, you can go to fortworthtexas.gov, and then there's the worm farms and their websites. And both of those worm farms will mail you your worms. And of course, you can go to the Texas Worm Ranch and actually pick up your worms. And I believe also both of these have some online tutorials as well to set up a worm bin for yourself. So once again, I'm Donna Smith with the Master Gardeners, and thank you so much for building a bin with us today, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.